Music, dance, theater. It's time to take a seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez. Hear from performers, producers, presenters, and creators who enrich our lives in the performing arts. Who's on stage? Here is Tom Alvarez to introduce you.
Greetings and welcome to On the Aisle with yours truly, Tom Alvarez. My guest on today's show is Richard Roberts, dramaturg at the Indiana Repertory Theatre. Also a freelance director with a background in journalism, he is a former editor of Arts Indiana. Join me now as I go on the aisle in a conversation with Richard. Welcome to my podcast, Richard. What a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
And you know, it's funny, because I'm out and about so much, I see people in lobbies at arts events and all, and, that's usually a good place to book people, right? And where did I book you? Where were we?
We were at that Arts Indiana event a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Of course, and that was, I saw you across the room, and I thought, seize the moment, grab him now, because, and then you tell me when we say hello that, you're heading out the door.
I am. I'm retiring.
So,
not from Arts Indiana. I retired from there many, many years ago. But
we're going to talk about Arts Indiana here in a minute, but let's talk about the Indiana Repertory Theatre. This show is not event-centric, meaning I don't have people come on, to promote upcoming events, but it just so happens that sometimes it's inevitable that the timing is such, but sometimes this show doesn't airs long after or it's published long after the event itself. So by the time people hear this, I'm going to try to get close, but you will have already started A Christmas Carol. Or I think you are.
We have already started Christmas Carol.
That's right.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and talk about it now. So for any people who are planning on coming, it's a whole month, right? How long does it run?
It runs through Christmas Eve.
Through Christmas Eve. So if this gets on before Christmas Eve, get your tickets now. I went recently, a couple of weeks ago, and I had taken, how long? Okay, let's have a little history lesson. How long has Indian Repertory been presenting?
This is our 34th Christmas Carol. We started in 1980. And did it for 5 years, and then it went away for a while, and then it came back in 96, and we've been doing it ever since then. And it's still Tom Haas's adaptation from 1980, although we've made a lot of changes in it over the years.
And for those who don't know who Tom Haas is, explain that.
Tom was the artistic director of the IRT from 1980 to 1991, I think. And he was also a writer, and he created this adaptation of Christmas Carol. It's actually very cool. He created this adaptation in 1979 when he was teaching an acting class at University of North Carolina. And he was working with the students, and they all had copies of the book, A Christmas Carol, in their hands, and they walked around the room acting out the scenes, reading out of the book, and took that and edited it down into a 2-hour version for the stage. And we actually found this year Tom's original copy of A Christmas Carol, which is an 1893 edition. It has all his cross-outs, all of his highlights, his little notes in the margin. It's pretty amazing. And inside it says Tom Haas, North Carolina, 1979.
Wow, where did you find it?
Well, it was in Janet's stuff. Janet Allen, who was Tom's associate artistic director and then our artistic director for many, many years, who retired a couple of years ago. It was in a box of stuff she had given me. And we moved our offices this last year, and things have been a little complicated, and I hadn't seen it until this year. And I went, oh my God, look at that.
Well, let's tell our audience exactly what your title is and what you do.
I am the resident dramaturg at the IRT. I've been doing that for 28 years, although I've been with the company for 36 years. And as the dramaturg, my job is history, research, background on the plays. I don't write plays, but I write about plays. I write the program notes. I put together study guides. I put together, we used to do pre-show chats, and I put those together. Any background information that is useful to the actors and the director in the rehearsal process, and then is useful to the audience when they come to see the show. That's a big part of my job, is to be the researcher, the writer, the history guy. And then the other half of my job, which is less often at the IRT, but still happens, when we're working on a new play, then I work with the playwright on the development of that play, offering suggestions, answering questions, being a sounding board for them, whatever they need to help them get the play where they want it to be.
Well, I've known you for a long time, Richard, and I know that the wealth of knowledge that you have about anything is vast, right?
Well, what's great about my job, it's the perfect job for a lifetime learner, which I am. Every month, we're doing a new play, so every month I have a whole new world of stuff to learn about. And I just find that endlessly fascinating. And then, after 28 years and 100, when I retire in May, it'll be 192 productions that I've dramaturged at the IRT, besides ones that I've done elsewhere. And so, just a lot of stuff accumulates. And, the brain fills up and a lot of stuff drips off over the edge and it's gone. But a lot of stuff I also know where to find it, because I've spent so much of my time looking for obscure historical information.
And what is it that you love most about research? I think you've already said, but I mean,
I love the research. That's my favorite part of the job, actually. I love finding things out. I love knowing things. I don't like not knowing things. Like Parthy in Showboat, who says, how I hate not knowing things. And I just love to know
so
things and learn things.
I bet you the internet has been a boom for you.
The internet has been a huge boon for me. Oh my gosh, yes.
What did you do beforehand? We know.
I spent a lot of time in the library.
Yeah, you got to know all the librarians.
A lot of books.
In town,
got to know
right?
all the librarians, yes.
Yeah, and remember those old files?
Card catalogs, and I had a big collection of books when the millennium happened in 2000. There were all these published history books and year by year things about the last century and the last millennium and so forth. I collected a whole bunch of those, and I had those. And those are great if you like, we're doing a play set in 1939. I can get those books, Xerox those pages, and that's really useful for the actors to have all this, what happened in 1939.
Well, I think you're a little younger than me, but still, we were through the same generation. We went to college, we had to do our papers, and we had to go to the library and all that work, and now it's just like...
And typing on a typewriter. And then you make a mistake and correcting things on a typewriter, or writing subsequent drafts.
Oh God, the little white pieces of tape that you can tape to the mistake. I mean, God, does it seem so primitive?
I tell this story often about being a dramaturg, because I don't spend all my time, but I spend a lot of my time writing, and I love writing, but I grew up hating writing. I went through college and graduate school typing papers and typing second drafts, and I wasn't a good typist, and I just didn't enjoy the process at all. And then at some point I thought, well, if I'm going to get a job as a dramaturg, I should have some writing samples that are something besides papers. So I started writing for Arts Indiana magazine. My best friend was the editor of the magazine, and she gave me assignments. And I discovered I love writing for people who don't know what I'm talking about. What I hated was writing papers for professors who already knew more about the subject than I did. But once I started writing articles and reviews and things for the magazine, I was like, this is a real interesting thing I've learned about, and now I get to craft it in a way that I tell the story to other people who don't know about it. And I thought, this is the most amazing thing to do. I love this.
Well, that's a great segue into our history together, Arts Indiana. But I want to go back further than that. I told you I'm going to jump around a lot.
Sure.
I'm just like stream of consciousness. You said something, reminds me of something else. And so here's the thing. You and I met when we were members of the Indianapolis Men's Chorus. And you came on the year it was founded,
That's
correct?
Right. Yes.
And the artistic director at that time was Michael Hayden.
Yes.
So give a brief history to our listeners about the Indianapolis Men's Chorus and your involvement.
The Men's Chorus was started by, I think, a big leader in the impetus was Jim Luce.
Yes.
But he and a bunch of other guys were like, the men's chorus movement, the gala chorus movement, gay and lesbian association of choruses, was spreading all over the country pretty early in its days. And Jim and a bunch of other guys thought, we need a men's chorus here in town. So they put together a group. They got people to come in and audition. They had people come in and a sort of sample choir for people who were interviewing for the job of choir director. And I was one of those people. I don't have any idea how they got a hold of my name, but I was a voice major in college, so music was huge to me. And so I came in and was there, and then they hired Michael ultimately, and then they started the chorus, and I was one of the initial members. And I worked very, very closely with Michael, actually. We very quickly became good friends, and Michael's conception of choral music is very theatrical. He always wanted a choir concert not to be just a bunch of guys in tuxedos standing there and singing, but he wanted a story to tell and action to happen. And because I was a theater person, our sensibilities really matched, and we worked beautifully together and created a lot of wonderful, I think, things.
And of course, a lot of his work was centered around the repertoire from the musical theater, right? And Great American Songbook.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and of course, that was part of your whole experience.
Exactly.
Coming out of theater, huh?
Exactly.
Okay, so I guess I never really knew that.
Yeah.
Well,
And I was a music major in college.
Yeah.
Plus, then I studied theater in grad
Yeah.
school. So both of those things are big in my life.
Yes.
And
yeah, and
I could
okay,
bring that
so
to the
you were
table.
educated in IU in Bloomington, is that
that's where I
correct?
went to grad school to study theater.
Okay, and let's go back to the rest of your education. Oh, and I was trying to remember. Okay, Richard is from, to prove that I really know you well, I even know that you're from Bremen?
Bremen, Indiana,
Bremen,
that's right.
Indiana.
Those of you who remember Governor Otis Bowen, he's from
Yeah.
Bremen. That's our claim
The
to fame.
dock.
I stood in line next to Governor Bowen at the fish fry once. He delivered many of my friends. He did not deliver me because my family doctor was one of his partners, actually,
Oh,
in his
my.
doctor's office.
And did you ever come to know his wife, Josie?
No,
Remember, she was quite a character.
she was after
and-
my time.
Okay, so Bremen. Where is Bremen?
Bremen is about 20 miles south of South Bend. It's a tiny little town. It was about 3,000 people then. We did not have a consolidated school system, so my entire high school was about 400 students. It was a very small school, very rural.
And what was life in Bremen like? Was it like our town, the play?
No.
No?
No, I wish. I did our town in high school.
Well, of course it would play there.
Should I say this in public? Well, why not? Anyone who knows me knows it's true. Bremen was the place that I couldn't wait to leave.
Okay, of course.
And I have nostalgia about small town life, but I knew from a child that I was not destined to live in a small town.
Were you a daydreamer a lot? Did you daydream a lot in school like I did about yearning to be somewhere I didn't
probably
know? Kind of like
did.
Dorothy. you
I
know?
spent my entire childhood reading. I always had my nose in a book. So
good,
that was my version of daydreaming, was not making up my own ideas,
What
but
kind of books were you reading back
everything.
then? Really?
Everything.
Yeah. Probably not your age group either.
No, not at all. The librarian at the school was constantly saying, that book is older for you. And I was like, I don't care.
Yeah. How about TV? Did you watch TV?
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day?
I did.
Yeah.
And I dreamed of my career watching That Girl.
Oh my goodness.
Living in New York, being in the theater. That Girl was my
I
favorite show
forgot
when I was a
about
kid.
that. That sort of mirrored the Mary Tyler Moore
Yeah.
show. Yeah.
It was the Mary Tyler Moore show 10 years earlier. Single
Okay.
career woman.
Yeah, but she was in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Marlo.
Marlo Thomas.
Marlo Thomas. She's still out there. She thought, she's looking good. Of course, as we
I think she just died, didn't she?
No, I saw her on the Today Show.
Oh, I'm so
recently.
glad. Why did I think that? What a terrible thought. I love Marlo Thomas.
She looks good. She's had a lot of work done, but I'm not begrudging her, of course. So, whatever one wants to do to stay happy, right,
Absolutely.
with oneself. So anyway, you made it through Bremen High School, and I'm sure you were a top student, right?
I was valedictorian in my high school class.
Oh yeah.
I was in band and choir and all those shows.
Do you remember
and
what you said in your speech?
I talked about the future. I talked about how graduation was not an ending, it was a beginning. That's literally all I remember.
And so, what was IU like?
Actually, then I went to DePaul.
Oh, that's right.
My
DePaul.
my undergraduate degree was a music degree at DePaul.
And of course, DePaul even back then had a great reputation for the theater.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, is that one of
It's
the
a
reasons?
small.
Yeah.
It's a small. It's actually DePaul doesn't have a theater department. It has a communication department. At least when I was there, I still think it's that way. But there was a very, very active theater program. I was in the School of Music, which is very well respected. I was a voice major. I was planning to be a high school choir director, but I did a lot of theater. And then, as now, in colleges, theater students and music students very rarely mingle. There are very few who are interested, who do both, until you get into musical theater programs, which are a new thing now. They didn't have them back then. I was kind of that anomaly who was a music major, but hung out with all the theater kids, and loved them both.
What drew you to the theater kids?
We just clicked.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question.
Well, you know,
I did definitely. I had my group of core friends. You remember the show 30 Something?
Sure.
I loved that show, and I felt like that was kind of what my college group had been like 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
And we were just a group of people. We were all in the arts, one way or the other, either music or theater, or both. And we just all clicked. We all had fun together. We all.
And you all were. So you found your tribe, like I did.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
I was drawn because they all wore black, and they all kind of like, you know, they were really proud of the fact that they were misfits, you know, and that was kind of their image. They wanted to come out being that way.
Yeah, and I was very much a misfit in high school. So when I went to college, and I never really found my tribe in high school. I had friends. But I didn't have a really...
Do you remember the joy it was to find your peeps and to find there were people who were just like you who knew about this musical and that musical and the actor who played in it and blah, blah, blah?
I was walking through the halls of the Performing Arts Center, and there was this group of people playing some kind of theater game in the lobby, not as a class or anything. They were just this gang of people who had met in the dorm, and they were playing a theater game, and I joined in, and it was instant.
Yeah,
these were my people.
And then the whole subculture of theater, you know, going out for a beer after rehearsals and talking endlessly about this, that, minutiae and whatever, you know, and to know that there are other people just like you, and you didn't know it back in Bremen, that you didn't know who these people were, right?
Musicians, I don't want to say they're more serious, because musicians can be great fun. But at least as students, the music students were much more focused on, because it was not part of the liberal arts program. It was a school of music, so it was not a conservatory exactly, but very focused on, you know, your rehearsal, your performance, your ensemble, your voice lesson, or whatever they were. It was a much more focused kind of program, whereas theater was just part of the curriculum, and there wasn't even a theater major. You were a communications major or an English major or whatever. And so, and we weren't all theater kids. There was a combo, so we just.
Do you remember the so many that you encountered who love theater? They're also very erudite and love these topics and discussions that were very intellectual.
Well, theater's about everything. So if you're into theater, you're interested in everything. Or you're willing to be interested in something you don't know anything about because you go to a play and it's about something new, and you're like, you're not sitting there, oh, I'm so bored because I don't understand this. You're like, oh, I want to learn about this. And people who want to learn.
And then there's also the wit, the repartee, if you will, that you find with theater students and people trying to outdo each other because they're all growing at the same. Do you remember that whole feeling?
Yes. Oh yes.
Trying to outdo each other, being coward.
We had all of these little catchphrases that we would use in conversations and work them into things, and
I have a
We thought we were so hilarious.
I had a theater friend who came up with these things, and I still remember to this day. She says, this is an insult, you are a walking compendium of little known and little cared for information.
That's great. That's great.
You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
And that's totally a description of me.
Well, if the shoe fits, right?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so it sounds like you had a lot of happy times.
I did. I loved college. I was happy when it was over, but I loved my 4 years at DePauw.
How about living in, is it Greencastle?
Greencastle.
I get confused with Greencastle. It's a little college
It's
town?
a little college town. Not very big, but it's a lovely little town.
Yeah.
And when you're in college, you're so focused on college, like it could be anywhere.
Yeah.
But we came to Indianapolis to see shows every now and then, or went to Bloomington at Clues Hall, mostly.
Yeah.
We came to the symphony, or we came to see the touring shows.
Did you come to see Starlight Musicals? Well, that was in the summertime.
Yeah, that was in the summer, so I didn't get to see Starlight till I moved here.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I have fond memories of Starlight.
Oh,
I
yeah,
wish they'd
saw some
come
great
back.
things at Starlight.
I mean, I remember seeing big stars there,
Oh,
too.
yeah.
I remember the sight line being out in that vast outdoor theater with the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And, sometimes, though, if you got a cheap ticket, they put you on the sidelines, but you could see backstage.
Oh,
you
yeah,
could
yeah,
see
yeah.
people making entry. And I remember seeing Liza Minnelli go back there and sneak smokes between her numbers. And she'd come out and do these big numbers.
Yeah.
It's like, God, she's like smoked, like a, Anyway, but yeah, those are wonderful days. And a lot of people came through there. As I recall.
Yeah. So Lena Horne there.
Yeah. Okay. So, so after you went straight to grad school?
No, I did not, and I'm so glad I did not. I talk about this with students often. When I got out of college, I went to college to become a high school choir director, and then one summer night between my junior and senior year, I had a dark night of the soul or an existential crisis, and realized I didn't want to be a high school teacher. I didn't want to work with children my whole life.
What brought you to that conclusion?
Well, I didn't understand children when I was a child. I certainly didn't understand them when I was an adult. And I just thought, I'm not going to be good at this. I'm not going to like it. This is not what I want to do with my life. And then I had no idea what I was going to do because I had been planning that for years and years. I just thought that was my favorite thing in high school. And I thought, well, I should do that. Mm-hmm. So then I did summer stock. And then they asked me to do the fall show. And I had my best friend from college was coming here to Indianapolis and had rented a house, and we were going to live together. So after I finished my show at the end of October, I came to Indianapolis, and he said to me, he worked at the IRT. He had an internship at the IRT. And he said, well, there are 2 jobs available at the IRT. You should go in and interview. So I did literally the next day. I went in and interviewed for a job in the ticket office and a job as a stage management intern.
Who did you interview with? Who was
the ticket office manager at that time, I think.
Okay. I see.
Yeah. It may have been Jimmy Seacat, who was the marketing director at that time, but I think actually it was Jimmy.
Jimmy Seacat, who went on to Actors Theatre in Louisville. We were good friends. Yeah.
And so, and then the other job was a stage management intern, which is what we call a production assistant today. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know anything about either of those things at all. Mm-hmm. And I went in and I chatted with people. And the funny thing was, they didn't really offer me either job. They were so desperate. They had fired someone, and it was Christmas Carol, and they were having ticket sales out the wazoo, and they needed somebody. And the fact that I showed up was enough for them to want me to have the job. And so I just got to pick which job I took. The ticket office job was more money, but it was only through December. The stage manager job was less money, but it was for the whole season. So I took that. And I'm so glad I did. Because as a stage manager, and I was a lowly assistant stage manager, but still, I worked with every department in the theater. I got to know everybody. I got to know it was such a learning process.
What year was that, Richard?
That would have been 1981.
Okay.
And I was in on rehearsals. I sat in on rehearsals with all the directors, and I had a job, but I was also watching them direct.
Well, great training.
And then I was backstage for all the performances. It was incredible training. So I did that for a year, and then I worked in the ticket office for a year, and then I worked in the business office for a year. And during those 3 years, I got to know Janet Allen, who at that time was the dramaturg for the IRT. I had never heard of the word dramaturg until I got to the IRT. And over those 3 years, I thought, that's what I want to do when I grow up. I think I would be good at that.
Is she your mentor?
Oh, totally. Janet's very much my mentor.
And it was all intentional up to that point.
Well,
By then.
Not in any way intentional, actually. It was just watching her and going, I think I could do
no,
that.
I meant after that, after you met,
Oh,
she knew
yes,
you wanted to.
yes,
She
yes.
trained
Oh, I
you.
talked with her about that, and you know, and so
She gave you what you needed.
yeah, she
Okay.
did. Then I went to grad school at IU.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have a dramaturgy. Nobody had a dramaturgy program back then except Yale and Columbia. So I went to IU and was in the master's program studying history, criticism, literature, theater, history, criticism, literature, and did my 2 years of classes, and then I worked for the theater department for 3 years in various administrative jobs. And
in Bloomington.
In Bloomington.
Okay.
And that was a great experience. I learned a lot in graduate school. I learned a lot about theater history and about structure, and again worked on shows, acted in shows. So that was, and dramaturged shows. So that was a great, wonderful learning experience. And then I decided, I need to write something. So I got this job at I started freelancing for Arts Indiana.
That's okay. I didn't know that.
My friend Jay, who was the editor, was leaving.
What was
Jay Stanley.
Yes.
Jay Stanley.
Yes.
She was leaving, and she said, you should apply for the editor job. I was like, me? I didn't even write for my high school newspaper. And she said, yeah, but you know what you're doing. You're good. And I'd spent a lot of time with her, so I had a sense of what her process was. So I was like, well, what the heck? So I applied. I did not get hired. But the person they did hire called me to come in, and she hired me as her assistant editor.
And who was that?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
You would ask me that name. I don't know.
Well, you know how people can find out? They can go online.
They
now.
can go online because Arts Indiana is online now.
And
That's the event that Tom and I
Yeah.
were at a
Yes.
couple weeks ago.
Yes.
They digitized
Another great
Arts
segue.
Indiana, the OCLC,
You know,
right?
It was a remarkable event for this reason for me, because there were faces of people there that really represented what I'll call the old guard of the Indianapolis arts community.
Absolutely.
Many of them are still alive,
Yeah.
including me. And I just, like, my head was spinning. I said, oh my God, I haven't seen that person forever, or this person. And I really, I had a great time. And of
Yeah.
course, Ann Stack, the publisher, and I believe she financed the whole thing most of the time. didn't
Not the
she?
whole thing, but a lot of it.
A lot of it.
A lot of
and
it.
so Ann Stack was honored, as was Lee Alleg, who I think he was on he was on the governance financial end too. You know,
He may have
was
been,
also-
yeah.
He was a big donor, of course, and he was the one, I think, who led this effort to. And apparently they had to cobble together all of the copies.
There was
that
not
they
one
digitized.
place where they all were.
And
I have all the copies from when I was there, but
Yeah.
I don't have them from before then or after then.
Yeah.
And so they had to gather them from various places to get. But they were able to find copies of every issue.
they did-
So if you want to know anything about the arts in Indiana from around 1990 to around 2010,
And
can
there
find
were
it in Arts Indiana.
There were other publications that associated with the Arts Indiana. There was like an artist postcard.
we had the postcard competition every year. People would submit artworks that were actually the size of a postcard. It was a huge thing. We'd get hundreds and hundreds. And then we had a committee of judges who would pick 12 of them, and then we would print them and sell them. And it was a great thing. And just so, you had these wonderful postcards that were just random, but so beautiful and interesting and unusual. There was poetry on the buses. That was a project that they did where they commissioned poets to write poems that were X number of lines long, so they would fit into one of those little signs on the bus. They published literary magazines with short stories and poetry. So there was a lot going on with Arts Indiana.
It really was ahead of its time.
It was a great thing.
And for the state of Indiana
Yeah.
to be represented that way really was
Yeah.
a big deal.
So I was the assistant editor there for about 6 weeks, and then the editor left, and they hired me as the editor. And then
Okay,
I was
what
the editor
years
there
were
for
you
4
there?
years. They hired me in fall of 80. Now, let me think. I graduated in 81. I was at the IRT 2, 3, 4. So I went to IU 4 to 9. So I started at Arts Indiana in 89 and left in 93.
93. Okay, which brings us to another reason I want you on the show. You called me one day, and I can't remember where I was, what I was doing at that point. Do you know? Do you remember? I just don't.
I had seen you on, you were
We
doing
met in the
various.
we
We
met
met
in
in
the
the men's
men's
course, but I had
course.
seen you doing, you were doing lots of TV stuff back then. You were doing lots of freelance.
I was
TV
across
stuff.
Indiana for a while
Yeah.
on Channel 8, and I can't remember. But the point is, you called me and you said, we have let go of our reviewer, Harriet Glazer. Would you like to be a review? Would you like to review? Would you like to review? And I was like stunned. I had no clue about. It's sort of like the person who said to you, "Well, and I love telling this story because it makes it sound really self-serving, but so be it." But anyway, I loved it because it's just like really. I mean, even back then, we all struggle with our insecurities, and I certainly had my share, and I still do. I'm not afraid to admit that, and I'm glad that I still do because it keeps me on my toes.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So you said, "Oh, Tom, you could do it. You're smart. You have style." I said, "Well, okay. Well, if he believes me, then believes in me, why not give it a try?" But it was harrowing, and I'll tell you why. Because I did not trust my judgment. I didn't think that I was smart enough, that I knew enough about theater, and that I would, and for a long time, talk about imposter syndrome. I really felt like a fraud. Oh, wait till they find out. And, oh, they probably think I'm this. And, I mean, the stuff, the torture that I went through.
Imposter syndrome is real.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I found that, what you had said to me was great. Encouraged me to be more confident, to be secure about my knowledge, and I recall though, and I'm happy to share with listeners that one of the reasons I'm doing this show probably dates to that opportunity you gave me, because again, remember what I just said, it instilled in me a lot of confidence that I felt comfortable in my own intellectual skin, and so then I pursued my freelance career in writing, and I had been doing television, mostly producing, directing. I did a little acting here and there, but this was an extension of my media experience, print publications. And in many ways, it was so much more satisfying because of the quality of the writing. Arts Indiana was first rate, as I recall. All the people who wrote there.
There were so many, and still are, so many talented people in Indiana, and you just give them an outlet and they will give you something wonderful.
I mean, I remember the writing though was just really first rate, and the writers, I can't name some of the people, but and then from there I went on to write for Nouveau for a long time, even the Indianapolis Star. Remember the arts and entertainment section? Dick Cady, of all people, he had been a hardcore newspaper guy, and somehow they made him arts editor, and he called me one day and said, "Hey, do you want to do some stories for me, some features?" And I was like blown away. But see, that it all started at Arts Indiana. However, that's really where I began developing my niche to cover the arts. And now, I'm at this point where I'm like the arts guy, and which I consider it's nothing I ever, it never occurred to me that this is something that I would end my career doing. But anyway, you are responsible, and I will always be grateful to you. And also, of course, Ann Stadt, she paid the bills.
She created that forum.
And she probably had to sign off.
And she worked so hard. She worked so hard to make that publication happen and make it sustain. And
Did you have anything to say to her the other night?
We talked a little bit, not very much.
Yeah.
Not very much.
You didn't go deep,
she and I happened to sit next to each other at the Phoenix at what I learned about the Constitution, what I know about the Constitution.
Wow.
What's that play called?
Yeah.
What I something about the Constitution. And so we had a long chat that night, and she was so busy with so many people the other night that I didn't.
Well, you have a very open heart, but I don't know that you're all that sentimental, though, are you? Because if it were me sitting next to her, I would just gone on and on and on about, whatever, the old days. Did you?
I am very sentimental about art.
Yeah.
I am someone who cries at art all the time.
Yeah, me too.
I very rarely cry at life. I'm a very repressed Midwesterner. My ancestors literally came over on the Mayflower.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
that British reserve, all
stiff upper lip. That's
my grandparents' names were Wood, Cuthbertson, Roberts, and Blodgett. I'm as British as you can get and still be an American.
Okay, well,
so I'm very reserved about things like that.
That explains it all.
Yeah.
That explains it all. Well, but underneath that, I know that you are also marshmallows. So
I am a marshmallow when it comes, See me at Christmas Carol. I'll be sobbing with you.
Well, Christmas Carol, as I said, I took a 4-year break because I had covered it for years and years and years, and it's like, oh my God, I can't go through it one more time. So anyway, I said, well, take a break. And I'm glad I did because I came back and it was all the new and fresh and not so much, Tom Haas's particular style, his format, it's very unique to have all those actors, and I don't think we explained for our listeners who didn't figure it out, but it's the actors, characters who tell the story.
There's hardly any set. The set is a big empty field of snow,
Yeah.
and it's the actors telling us the story and acting it out, and it's
it's
just magical.
Yes.
It's a great way for the audience to use their imagination.
And there are not, as you said, no great sets, but there are props, and the
Oh, yeah.
props help tell the story.
Yeah.
And the props are very unique.
Yeah.
Very, very unique. And of course, what's changed too is they did this over time. They changed the look of the ghosts, and they're also the delivery of the narrative, correct?
Yeah.
And the characterization.
Little changes happen all the time, and as soon as you get new actors in, that changes everything.
And I don't want to spoil it for those of you who haven't seen it, but there are some trapdoors involved. So,
There are.
And did they add more? Because there seem to be more.
I think those trapdoors have been pretty much there
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. But of course, again, there's the sloping stage, the raked stage,
Yeah.
and then of course, I
And
always wondered, do they
ton
have
of
to
snow.
do they have to train them not to slide down that thing, to walk on that thing?
It's not so steep that you would slide down it, but it is pretty steep, and there are parts of it that are so steep
I
that the
meant
actors
that,
don't
though.
walk on them.
Is there any special training that they go through?
No,
to
they
walk
just
on
they
that?
have very good nonstick shoes, and
okay.
and they get plenty of rehearsal on the stage during tech before
And I
they get in
gotta
front of people.
ask, what do they do with all that damn snow?
Well, it falls from the sky onto the stage, and then they put new snow in, and it falls off the front edge of the stage, and people walk out with it. The snow goes everywhere in the building
but how
and
do they
everywhere in the town.
How do they clean it out?
Well, at the
No.
end of the run, they just sweep it all into bags, and it goes.
Especially the front seats, and again,
Yeah.
I won't give it away.
It
but,
gets
yeah.
swept.
Oh yeah, okay.
There's a lot of sweeping involved.
That's simple.
and if you go to the show, at intermission, you'll see them raking the snow.
I haven't even gotten up close to that snow. I should have, just for
It's just tiny, tiny little pieces of plastic.
So, has anybody ever swallowed any?
Uh-huh.
In the emergency room?
Oh yeah, snow lung is real. Nobody's gone to the emergency room, thank God. But
Okay, I'm warning people, don't sit too close if you don't want a lot of snow on you, One time I was in Las Vegas to see O, and they warned you that if you bought a ticket, you should wear like some rain clothes or some jacket if you sat in the first 3 rows. And I did. I went up to, I think was whatever, and I got a jacket at the last minute, and thank God I did, because a lot of water ended up on all of us in the first 3 rows. So, but the snow, the people at IRT who come
they
to
love
the
the
show,
snow.
they
I mean,
do.
they especially buy the
Did
snow
you ever
zone.
get anybody who was just like really pissed off? How dare you throw all that on me?
I don't remember reading about that in performance reports, but I imagine it happens at some point. Most people would just laugh.
Some Scrooge.
Some Scrooge,
right?
yeah.
So tell me, you directed it 4 times.
I directed it 4 times. Yes.
Yeah, what was that like?
And
Were they years apart? Were they all
No, there was
grouped
4
together?
years in a row.
Oh, okay.
One of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
Why?
It's directing Christmas Carol is like jumping on board a 20,000-ton steamship that's just sailing right by you, and you have to just get on it and go with the flow. Because everybody, the first year, even though I had been at the IRT for many years at that point, I had not been in the rehearsal room every day. I had not directed it. I had not been in charge of the ship. And everybody else in the room knows more about it. You know, when you direct, you're the person who knows more than everybody else because you've spent the most time on it. Yeah. Well, when you direct Christmas Carol, you are not the person who knows. Everybody else knows more than you because they've all acted in the show for several years. The designers designed the show years ago. And so then you just have to figure out how to steer it without wrecking it.
Interesting.
And then you get to add your own little touches, and you get to develop your own ideas, and you get to maybe change the direction a tiny little bit. But it's its own thing. Cara Hihn, who's our associate artistic director, who directed it this year for the second time, she's done a beautiful job of coming in with some fresh ideas and just some little twists. It's still the same story. We add scenes and delete scenes every year since Tom died. We have permission from his son, his heir, to do with it whatever we want. And so we very much remain true to his original spirit. There are huge chunks of it that are exactly the way Tom wrote it. But there are little things we changed. Language has changed so much in the last 30 years that we've tweaked the language a little bit. Every now and then we go, this Dickens word is really beautiful, but boy, nobody knows what it means. Little things like that.
I saw this.
And we change the music every year.
Yeah. Cara was on the show.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and we had a delightful conversation.
She's wonderful.
I think I saw her, but anyway.
Yeah,
but,
and she's from Indianapolis.
Yes.
So she saw Christmas Carol when she was a child, and then now she's directing it.
She talked
it's wonderful.
about that,
I'm sure she
the
did.
influence IRT had on her in general. Who knew that she would end up here in that capacity?
Yeah.
So she really impressed me, and also along those lines, she very much, as I have become a real advocate for inclusiveness, inclusion, if you will, and diversity issues, and minority representation is my mantra, and so we share that in common too. With her as an Asian background.
Yeah, she's Vietnamese.
And we had so much in common in terms of that, trying to make a career and coming up against, talk about the old guard and old attitudes and out racism and all that. And so representation and why it's so important. And it occurred to me once again that IRT had been doing it for a really long time, and I understand who told me that it's no longer politically correct. Richard, the term it used to non-traditional casting is no longer politically correct. What is the new term? I don't know
what we call it now. I think what it used to be colorblind casting, and that term isn't used anymore because people realize it's not about being blind to the color. It's about acknowledging different colors of people and letting them be themselves on stage.
Correct.
I don't know what we call it nowadays. We just do it.
But what we're talking about, for those who don't know what we're talking about, is casting African American actors in plays that were written in England or British plays or whatever. You're used to seeing white people play these roles, and suddenly there's a black or Asian or Latino. And so it's kind of like you have to change your paradigm.
Yeah.
It's like accepting, but isn't that what theater's about?
Exactly.
Acting's good.
Exactly.
You should be able to believe it.
I think one of the most important things about theater is to give people an opportunity to see themselves on stage, to see a story on stage and to go, that's me. That's how I feel. That's what happened to me. And so, all the ways you can do that, not only with the story, but also the actors, everything. You want to create a variety of things so that everybody has that opportunity to feel that
Yeah,
and feel a part of a group and feel like, look at all these people around me who look nothing like me but are having the same experience as me. It builds community.
Well, for me, I had a personal experience with this when I was in college at Purdue Indiana Theatre, Fort Wayne, which is actually quite progressive, and the professors who were in charge of the department, they were all East Coasters. They had all been to places like Carnegie Mellon and University of Pennsylvania. It's really good schools, and we got to learn from these guys. So they were doing that back in the 60s when I was, and they cast me, Mexican American, as a gringroser, in a musical based on the story. It's a classic. Anyway, so yeah, and I knew for me as an actor, as a minority, that it was possible that I could have a future in the theater. I mean, but now it seems to be pretty common, and I love the fact that theater schools now have representation as well, so they're training actors who are professional, and it's. I mean, it's been, it's even more so on Broadway now that I've seen. Yeah, it's amazing.
Broadway was kind of late to that party, but the Broadway is very much part of the party now.
So, but, it seems to me what I'm seeing on stage, it still demands that whoever's in those roles, they need to be, they need to be the best in their, at their art.
Absolutely.
Or their craft.
Absolutely.
Seems to me. So no one can say, oh, well, use it as an excuse to justify racism, The art, the craft itself. Would you agree?
It's like anything in life, if you want to create something that is the best, you work with people who are the best.
And then, and also LGBT actors, playing, playing the typical leading man role or whatever,
Yeah.
So it's just not. Thank God, there's one place in this world where you can depend on, some elevated thinking about these things. But the theater's always been in the vanguard, hasn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Of change.
Theater, theater is about giving us experiences that we don't have in real life, allowing us to live vicariously through what we see on stage. So we don't have to marry our mother and kill our father like Oedipus, but we get to understand what that experience is and learn from that. And so theater's always, whether it's tragedy or comedy or whatever, theater is always giving people experiences that are outside of the norm to expand their world.
You really have had this very rich, and you could say that you really have had a life in the theater. What has that meant to you? And now that you're closing that chapter and you're going to begin to look back in its totality, what can you say about it?
That's a tough question. For me, certainly a huge part of working in theater has been working with my tribe, working with people I like. I'm very fortunate at the IRT. The IRT has a very strong philosophy. The art needs to be good. That's very important. But we also have a very strong philosophy. The experience needs to be pleasant. And that's not the case in every business, as we know. And so we work really hard at the IRT to hire really talented people who are going to do good work and who we want to work with. And so I have the great fortune of having a job where I really like everybody I work with.
How do you vet people, though? How do you know that there isn't a bad apple? They're going to do the interview, they're going to be right, nice, and cheery, and then you hire them, and they turn out to be evil.
And those people don't tend to stay.
Yeah.
Because they don't flourish in our environment because we don't.
They don't fit.
We don't create keep the drama on the stage. We don't create an environment where that kind of agitation can last very long because it doesn't have a place I'm not saying that it's all Pollyanna and everything's perfect, but we work hard to make it a good place to work. So that's important to me.
So the leadership sets a tone.
The leadership absolutely sets a tone. And I look at other businesses. Janet Allen did that for many, many years, and now Ben Hanna's doing that. And Suzanne Sweeney
Haas did too. He was beloved. He was beloved.
So, all those factors are important. And the board, also the people on the board are good people who care about the theater and want it to flourish and want the community to feel part of it.
Is that written down somewhere? Is it in your mission, that specific?
I don't
Specific, or is
think
it just
it probably
it's
is,
just
but it's
passed
just an
down?
unspoken thing maybe. I'd have to look at our mission statement to see if it's there. I haven't looked at
Yeah.
that for a while.
Yeah.
So that's very important to me. I so hesitate to use the art to say I'm an artist, but I suppose I am. But I like the idea of creating worlds. I like the idea of being part of something that's creating something that is its own thing, that is special, that is a place we want to be for a couple hours. And as a dramaturg, I'm part of that because I help create that. I've directed a lot of shows here in town at the IRT and at other places around town. And I love that aspect of directing, of really working with people to put something together that, when I used to have a house and I used to have a garden in the house, and I didn't love working in the garden, but I loved having a garden. And I loved that being able to, plant the things where I wanted them and make the pictures I wanted to make. And that's what you do in theater. You tell a story, you make the pictures you want to make. And I love that process.
And how about the artists themselves? Over the years,
Artists-
you've had a chance to work with some of the best.
Artists are wonderfully creative. They're like everyone else. Some of them are terrific people. Some of them are not terrific people. But you work with the terrific ones and you go, I want to work with them again, and you bring them back again. And you find auditions are so hard. I always say directing is 90% casting. You find the best people to do it, and then you let them do their work and let them bring their own ideas to the table and share and edit and form and shape together and create something that is beautiful.
What is explain for our listeners the casting process at IRT and a lot of professional theater?
The casting process at any theater is pretty basic in that, the actor comes in, they do either a monologue from something they've
don't
well
you
prepared.
Use casting directors?
We do a lot.
Companies
Yeah,
that do that for you.
The casting process has changed so much since COVID. Now, so much casting happens on Zoom.
That's what I hear.
It used to all be in person, and now 90% of it is on Zoom.
And people have figured out that it's reliable to go off of a Zoom.
It is, to some extent. It's certainly, Zoom is better than just having someone submit a tape, because you really need to be able to have a conversation with someone to get a sense of who they are. You want to be able to throw things at them and see how they respond to ideas that are outside of what they've prepared, and see how they make that adjustment. But we do use a casting director, mostly in Chicago, but depending on the show,
Because Chicago
sometimes.
can cut through the subterfuge.
Chicago's just closer.
Yeah.
We've had great success with actors in Chicago. We're using New York now more nowadays than we have for the last few years, just because of.
I thought it was because of budgets, maybe, but that's
Well,
not it.
it's certainly budgetarily, it's a lot cheaper
And
to cast in
because
Chicago. Not because the actors are cheaper, but the casting process.
Well, then-
and we can drive to Chicago and stay overnight and come back. Whereas if we're
And
casting in New
there's more of a
York, we have to
pull
fly
there
to New
now,
York and
right?
blah blah blah.
There's
Yeah,
more of a pull because
yeah.
of the theater
And Chicago's a
scene.
huge theater community. Huge.
yeah, a
They have
lot.
amazing actors in Chicago.
A lot of it ends up in New York.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
So when we use a casting agent, then we give them, the information of here's what we're looking for. Here we give them what we call a character breakdown. This is what we're looking for. What we're looking for in this particular character, as opposed to what some other theater and director might be looking for in that character. And then they bring in actors for us to see, and then we make choices.
But a lot of it's electronic now.
But a lot of it happens on Zoom now, yeah.
Wow, Zoom in my own
Which
work.
has broadened our field a lot, because not everybody has to be in a certain place. But it's also, it's not as interpersonal, and we're all in the theater because we want to work with people.
Well, I use Zoom now, and that's how I land these interviews with celebrities and people around the country. And a lot of, COVID really brought a lot of good things to the table, didn't it? to do thing, to.
There's a silver lining in every cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you spend your COVID time, your pandemic time?
I was working part-time. The IRT, thanks to Janet Allen and Suzanne Sweeney and the board and everyone, we were so fortunate. We never closed down. We went on furlough for a few months over the summer. But we kept producing all through COVID. We were doing
salaries.
They were paying the salary. It was not as much because we weren't working a full year, but we were still getting paid. We were still doing our jobs, and we were producing. We were making shows for streaming.
Yeah.
We did a whole year of filming, of rehearsing a show,
Sets and everything.
building the sets and the costumes, and then performing it once for the camera, and then that was it.
Yeah,
So
but
for the actors, it was a very strange
did
experience.
they pay for themselves or no? Those productions.
There, I don't know.
Yeah.
We sold tickets.
I understand that was.
We had
challenge
subscribers.
because you were.
We sold tickets. There were grants. There were wonderful COVID grants to help all kinds of not-for-profits, and the arts were among them.
Did you all
We had
realize
special
at the
donations.
time, did you all realize at the time just what was missing was the audience? Did that?
Absolutely,
How
absolutely.
did that affect the actors on screen?
Well, they did the best they could.
It's like making a movie, though.
It's like making a movie, yeah. And it's like, you go through the whole rehearsal process without an audience, and then the audience is like the new factor at the end. And this was just going through the whole process without getting that last added factor at the end. But it was we could create work and we could keep going, and there were so many theaters that closed down all over the country, and came back or didn't come back. And Janet and Suzanne worked so hard to make that not happen to us, and
Well, you had a
we're also
board,
grateful
too,
for that.
that
And the
made
board,
sure.
absolutely.
Wow. What was it like? I recall as a reviewer, I remember those first few performances, not first few, the performances when people started returning. And I can't remember the production at IRT, but I wanted to write about my reaction or what I saw the audience. I wanted to report that. And at the time, it was very emotional. I remember those first few performances, there were tears. I saw people's tears of joy and happiness that, seeing the performance live, but also being in the company of other people. Even if in those early days, how uncomfortable though it was wearing a mask, because you really didn't know whether you could still get it. There's that fear, but there was always, so those are really special audiences, by the way.
We all went through over a year of being just isolated, and we had our families and our homes, but and you went out to the grocery store in your mask, and you tried not to look at anybody or think about anybody. But we didn't go out to eat. We didn't go out to parties. We didn't do anything
it drug
for
on
a
and on.
year.
Doesn't it sound-
And we all thought, when it started in March, we all thought, okay, we'll be back in September. No, a year later, it was still a March again, and we still weren't back.
Yeah.
And so when we finally were able to start coming back, it was a joyous thing. It was a trepidatious thing because you still didn't know exactly what was going on. But it was a joyous thing because that kind of community, people who want to go to the arts, people who want to go to the symphony or a concert or a play, you want to go to see the art, but you also want to go to be a part of the community and not experience that art by yourself, but experience it with a group.
And that's what live performance has also become a mantra for me, to promote live performance, because recently I had the great fortune of speaking with a Tony-winning Broadway producer, Michael Lamon. He won a Tony for lead producer of Merrily We Roll Along.
Oh, great.
He's got one on Broadway now, Operation Mincemeat. Anyway.
Merrily We Roll Along is going to be in the movie theaters next week.
December
I can't
the
wait
5th.
to see it.
December the 5th. Do you know if it's going to be here at AMC, I hope?
It's playing several places here in town
great.
for almost a week.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah,
Because I don't want to miss that. So anyway, Michael, we talked about AI and how that's harrowing for actors especially, and for all creatives, you know, and the public, being the public as it is sometimes, is, you know, it's they have no clue and don't care. They're just interested in the outcome, whatever that is. If they see someone and that, you know, they later find out that it was a, you know, an AI version. Oh, well, but I liked it, so what's the problem here? Well, for the people who make their living, it's a problem.
Yeah.
But he pointed out, he says, well, you know, in the end, it's really going to benefit the theater. The live performance, you can't replicate it, you can't duplicate it, and you can, you know, then you could use it to promote the fact, okay, folks, if you're wondering whatever you're saying, if they're real or not, you cannot duplicate live performance. So there is a good reason that, you know, that AI will never change that. Do you agree?
Yeah. It's so easy to want to demonize AI. And I think there are certain ethical and creative problems with AI, but I think it's here, it's not going to go away.
No.
And we have to figure out how to harness it and use it. I know in my own research, in my job, I used to just ignore that AI button, and now every now and then I go, this is a good question for AI. When it's a really complicated, subtle little question, and I don't necessarily know that that's going to be the answer, but it's going to point me toward the answer.
So you use it.
I do use it
Yeah.
every now and then.
Yeah.
I don't use it consistently, but I actually, because, you know, the first thing that comes up on Google is the AI answer. And I used to just ignore it and say, oh, AI is evil. But now I'm like, oh, you know, that's helpful.
Well, I will openly admit that I use AI for writing, but not to change my voice. But it really it's made my writing better in many ways.
I haven't done that. I know a lot of people who do that,
It's-
and a lot of people are really concerned about that. I think that the
You have to have
creative spark,
Yeah.
the idea for a story, I don't know if that's ever going to come from AI. Maybe it does. Maybe I'm just naive. But I think if you use it to help doing what you're doing.
What I noticed, Richard, is if you try to use it to take the easy way out with writing, you're going to, if you have any self-integrity, you're going to realize that this is not my voice.
Well,
I
and
don't
it's-
like the way
yeah.
AI says. I wouldn't say it that way.
And it's just like the AI people, the pictures you see. You look at that and you instantly go, no, that's too perfect. That's not real.
That's exactly it.
And the same thing, if you use AI for writing, you're going to go, that's too polished. That's not real. A person
Yeah.
didn't do that.
I worked long and hard to find my voice.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go like try to improve it, but because
Yeah.
because it's again, I need to trust myself.
Yeah.
That what I'm
Yeah.
communicating.
I don't spend hours changing words and commas and tiny little things in my writing because
Yeah.
for a random reason. I do it because I want it to be exactly what is in my head.
Yeah.
I want it to be better than what's in my head, and I have to do that myself.
Yeah, that's what I've learned from it too. Yeah, but you know, look at the other uses of technology in the theater. I love the hybrid video incorporated sets today.
Projections
It
can be a
take you
great
to any
thing.
place in the world,
Yeah.
even new universes.
Yeah.
So being the creatives who are involved in
Yeah.
that. I do you appreciate it?
I think projections are great if they're doing something that can't be done in another way. I think if a projection is showing me a picture of scenery that they could have built,
Yeah.
then I feel like it doesn't feel creative to me and it feels like a cheat.
The best ones I've seen of late were like Anastasia. There was some incredible production.
yeah, I heard there
and
were,
I think
yeah.
Frozen, pieces like that.
Frozen,
Some
Frozen,
special effects.
Frozen was a surprisingly good show.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was.
so talking about shows, what's going on? What do you make it to New York regularly?
I haven't been to New York in a while.
Okay.
There's some things in New York now that I'm interested in.
Which?
Oh gosh,
what?
I knew you would ask me that, and now I have no idea. It's just not at the top of my head.
Well, there are a lot of revivals, and I wonder about that. Where's the new stuff? Yeah, but you know, revivals when they come back, they're often different animals.
This isn't new in New York, but I know Suffs is coming to Chicago next summer, and I'm very excited to see that because I thought that looked looks so great and interesting, and everyone I've talked to says it's wonderful. It's a musical about suffragettes,
Okay.
and it's supposed to be really, really good.
Well, now, as you know, there are musicals about every topic under the sun. They can
Absolutely.
be dark, they can be about murder, serial killers, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, as long as the music's good and they've got you
Yeah.
know, great acting or whatever, it's just anything goes, right?
Yeah.
No more golden age of Hollywood stuff. Or musical theater. You know,
Yeah.
Oscar Hammerstein, all those old-fashioned stories.
I had
It
the-
would still. You
I
know,
had the great thrill of directing Sweeney Todd twice,
gosh.
a musical about mass murder and
Did you
cannibalism.
do the concert version here?
I did.
I love
I
that,
did.
Richard.
I did. We did it in the for Actors Theatre of
I
Indiana.
love that.
We
On
did
the
it in the
Palladium.
studio theater with
Yeah.
150 people, and then we did it in the Palladium with a full orchestra and 80 people in the chorus and an audience of 2,000. It was both versions were thrilling for
Well,
very
you know,
different reasons.
I've reviewed your stuff, and of late, you know, Richard Roberts, the director, you know, the stuff that you've turned out, Violet, really stood out. Actors
Thank
Theatre
you.
of Indiana.
Thank you.
Talk about a dark musical.
Oh yeah. A woman whose face is disfigured, and she travels across country to meet a faith healer to cure her.
Yeah. What a
And
story.
that was a show. They asked me to direct that, and I said, I don't think you want me to direct that. I don't like that show. And they said, oh, no, you must direct it. And I said, fine, send it to me, and I'll read it, and I'll listen to it. And I read it, and I listened to it. And I was like, And then I read it and listened to it again. And by the third time, I was like, this is the most beautiful play I've ever seen in my life. And I directing it was such a thrill. Because it's a bus. It's a musical. 2/3 of the play takes place on a bus.
Right.
How do you stage that?
Yeah.
It was the most fun challenge.
Well,
I loved that
you've
show.
always been smart enough to face those things that you fear the most, right?
Well, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to. One
if
thing.
I'm afraid of it, I should do it.
If I'm going to the theater, I don't want to see a warmed over version of what they did on Broadway.
Yeah.
Because on Broadway it was better. I guarantee you it was better. They had $8 million to spend on Broadway, and they had the best actors in the world. I want to see your vision of the play. I want to see your ideas about it, and that's exciting. So
Well,
I
yeah.
try to do that really hard when I direct a show.
We're going to wrap things up, but I need to know, are you going to continue to direct?
Yes, I just today got confirmation of a show I'm directing next season.
Can you talk about it?
I can't talk about it because they
Okay.
haven't announced it, obviously, but
Okay.
I'm very excited about it.
Great. So you're going to continue
Yes,
working
and
on it.
I hope now will have more flexibility in my schedule. I may be able to direct more, which would make me very happy. I love directing.
Let's leave with I'm going to ask you to send out a few messages. What are your messages to your peeps at the Indiana Repertory Theatre?
Oh, thanks for a
Hopefully
great
they'll be
38
listening.
years. And thanks for your support and your friendship and your good work and your good art.
What do you say to IRT audiences who you've labored for?
Thank
all
you
these
for
years?
still coming to the theater. Thank you for coming back after COVID. Thank you thank you to those people who come back and see Christmas Carol every single year. And thank you to the people who only come to the IRT and see Christmas Carol. I always say, if you only see one show at the IRT and it's a Christmas Carol, you're seeing a really good example of what we do.
That's
We're
kinda
very
like
proud
a
of our
religious-
Christmas Carol.
People who aren't religious who only show up at church
Yeah.
at Easter or Christmas.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you say to the arts community in Indianapolis, period?
Keep up the good fight. It's, art is always a struggle, and we don't do it for the money because there are only, 12 people who actually make money off of art. The rest of us do it because we love it, and it's a gift to the community, but it's hard work making that gift. And so be strong and
And Richard, if you're like me, do you agree? Do you agree, given the times and what's going on in our country, politically, socially, that escapism is so important these days?
totally.
And that the arts and sports
Totally.
seem to be the only places where you can go and feel safe, that you don't have to deal with any of that.
And that's not to say that art should be meaningless, but it should be entertaining. And, entertaining can be a good cry. Entertaining can be, oh, I never thought about that before. That's so fascinating. Entertaining can just be laughing yourself off for 2 hours.
Escapism isn't a bad thing.
No, it's not.
No.
If there's bad fluff and there's good fluff, and there's nothing wrong with good fluff.
I like the fact too. Again, I alluded to sports with the idea that it seems like the only things that we can still have in common, and no one knows your politics sitting on either side of you.
Yeah,
that you all have something in common for that short time and. Thank God, and by the way, there are a lot of similarities between the two, right? You learned that working in the theater.
Oh, sure.
It's just like,
sure. Sports is all about conflict. Theater is all about conflict. They're just different kinds of conflicts.
Yeah. Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
That's what I've found the connection between the two. Well, my friend, thank you for everything that you've done on my behalf. That all of the contributions you've made to the Indiana Repertory Theatre and to the community at large, starting with Arts Indiana and all the directing jobs you've done around town. So, you've made some major contributions. And I like to think that since I've been here since the early '70s, I have seen people like Brian Fonseca, and the list goes on. Janet Allen. I mean, you all, the artists in this town, have literally educated at least 3 generations in my time of people, and have exposed this community, to something that has enriched all of our lives. So thank you for your contributions, and thanks for spending this time with me.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm sure at some point I will see you on the aisles.
Indeed.
And with that, I hope to see you soon. Our thanks go out to our media sponsor, Urban Times. Urban Times is a monthly news magazine which serves as the official newsletter for 15 Indianapolis neighborhoods, offering news about development, arts and entertainment, and from the business community. Thank you for joining me on the aisle. Please subscribe to my podcast, and if you want to hear previous episodes, find them on the All Indiana Podcast Network, or listen to them wherever you get your podcasts. This is Tom Alvarez.
Who will take center stage on the podcast next? Your seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez awaits. Follow Tom on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and make sure to visit tomalvarez.studio. Watch Tom every other Thursday on Lifestyle Live on Wish TV, and make sure to listen every week here on the All Indiana Podcast Network.